Leo, Leo, Clyde yelled as he sprinted towards me. Why'd you run out so quick? I saw Master Johnny trailing behind Clyde. I turned around and saw a fleet of police cars dash past my location and soon drove into the parking lot adjacent to the fairgrounds, lights flashing and alarms blaring. It was... Never mind, actually, Mr. Franklin was in there, I yelled. I was hyperventilating so much that it became a chore to speak. I felt so rattled by the situation that I didn't feel like ever dealing with something like that ever again. Well, some police cars just pulled up and are rushing into the building, Clyde comforted. So Mr. Franklin will be arrested. No, he won't. He won't. Mr. Franklin never gets arrested, no matter how hard anybody tries. I shouted. Master Johnny appeared by my side and dropped a ton of papers next to me. Here's everything I found inside that building before running out. Read up on these tonight. They have information about Mayor Xavier's killer, Gabriel. I began to grab all the papers and hold them tightly as I skimmed through them, soon handing them to Clyde. That was when an idea, though most likely a stupid one, kicked into my mind. I was told by Clyde that in that letter he sent to me that my ideologies involve revenge and righteousness, two key components in figuring out Mayor Xavier's death, and two key components I really did have. Maybe all of this really did have a purpose. Maybe I should really risk my life to truly figure out the deep truth about Mayor Xavier's death, and possibly Joshua's. I think we should go back inside that building, I suddenly said, breaking the silence as I stopped hyperventilating. So now you want to go back inside. Clyde shot me a skeptical look as he grabbed a journal and began writing furiously. You just ran out of the circus distress and now you want to head back inside? I want to seek revenge and righteousness. You said I had those traits, and now I truly figured out my purpose and everything and what I should be using my life for. We can't go back inside, at least not for today. We have another investigation planned. Clyde paused and took a look at his watch before looking back up at me. In about 15 minutes, at Mr. Franklin's home. Well, his old one, that is. My face lit up. My brain, which was still engulfed in adrenaline and fear, was telling me that this was a stupid decision. Despite myself still in dismay, I nodded my head and wanted to go investigate it. You're up on investigating it? Just you and I? Nobody else? I nodded my head again. I nodded my head once again. Even if I die, I hope that I can still figure out the deep truth in hopes of retaliation against Mayor Xavier's killer and Joshua's, to shine light and righteousness on the situation. Clyde patted me on the back. That's what I like to hear. Now let's get back into my car. Master, are you leaving with me or the police officers? I'm leaving with the officers, Master Johnny replied as he got up and began walking. I'll see you guys later. Clyde and I waved goodbye to Master Johnny. Now it was time to head to Mr. Franklin's old home. 6077 Thornapple Drive, Greendale, Wisconsin. I didn't realize that Mr. Franklin's home wasn't actually in Greenfield. I thought that it was, but it turns out that it's in the neighboring city, Greendale. The drive to his house was long and boring, but eventually we made it. The house looked exactly like the house looked the exact same as the last time I was here. The only difference was the police tape surrounding the perimeter of the property. Immediately, I was hit with several bad memories from that horrid event, the sleepover, the event that caused everything now to transpire. You ready to get inside that house? Clyde asked as he turned off the car and stepped out. Absolutely, I said with enthusiasm, perfectly masking my fear. Clyde walked to the trunk of his car, grabbed a massive duffel bag, and handed it to me as he ordered me to look through the bag and apply all the equipment to my person. The sun had almost completely set by now, and because of the heat wave, the lights were extremely comfortable. Using the inside light from the car that was still on, I slowly looked through the duffel bag, and in about 5 minutes, with the use of a manual located within the bag, I managed to equip all the equipment to my person. I zipped up the now empty duffel bag, shut the car trunk, and walked over to Clyde. You ready? Clyde asked as he pulled out his flashlight and turned it on. Yes, I said. As I waddled to Clyde, I realized how much of a burden holding this equipment on my person really was. It was weighing me down so much that taking a step felt like running a mile. You all right there? Clyde asked as I stumbled over to the front door of the house. I nodded my head. I had to ignore the burden now placed on me. Welcome to being a detective at City Hall, Clyde smirked. It gets better though, don't worry. As we made it to the front door, it became apparent that nobody lived in this house and that we would be safe to an extent. Mr. Franklin was either in the circus or in the back of a police car, which we can already conclude never happened. I think the door has been left unlocked. Give the knob a good twist, Clyde said as he stepped to the side of the door. I grabbed the moss-covered doorknob and twisted it. Sure enough, the door swung open. I was immediately hit with a filthy odor. It reeked of dead animals and flesh. Human flesh. You want to step in first, Leo? I nodded my head despite being engulfed in traumatic fear. I grabbed a flashlight out of my pocket and headed inside the house, keeping every part of my body steady. We're specifically looking in the basement and in the master bedroom, but still make sure to check everywhere, Clyde shouted through the empty house. Didn't the police already look through here? I yelled back as I made my way into the rundown kitchen. Yes, but they only looked through the second bedroom in the house, otherwise known as Joshua's bedroom. And that was back in June. I noticed a light peel from the doorway behind me. I turned around and saw Clyde following me close behind. Are you sure you want to look through the kitchen? Clyde shouted as I made my way to a rundown oven, cabinets open and their contents everywhere on the floor. Well, you said look through the whole house, so let's do it. I made my way over to the fridge as I swung the door open with zero hesitation, my flashlight bathing the whole fridge in light. Right as I did, I was greeted with the sight of several completely deformed dead bodies shoved into the fridge. I screamed so loudly and jumped back, falling onto the wrecked floor of the house. What the heck? I yelped as I kicked the fridge door shut with my foot. What was in there, Leo? Clyde asked as he went to take a look in the fridge. Clyde, don't check in there, I shouted. Right as I shouted, it was too late. Clyde opened the fridge door, bathing the dead bodies in light. He terrifyingly screamed at the sight of what he just witnessed. Oh my God, he yelled as he slammed the fridge door shut. I got myself up from the floor. Clyde was standing silently in the darkness, his flashlight on the floor facing down. I picked it up and handed it to him before leaving the kitchen and heading back into the living room. I warned you, Clyde, I mumbled. Clyde ran out of the house and began vomiting in the bushes. I began to wonder to myself, where could the basement be? Definitely not under the stairwell. From what I remember, there wasn't a door or crawl space or anything under there. Maybe the entrance was located in the downstairs guest bedroom that I was never allowed in. I knew it was downstairs, but where? Hey, Leo. I turned around to face Clyde as he commanded, I'll check upstairs. Leo, you check downstairs in the basement. Clyde was wobbling from the weight of the equipment tightly strapped onto him. He seemed weaker after his vomiting session. Will do, I said as Clyde headed upstairs. I began to flip over all the chairs and couches in the living room, eventually turning up nothing. These were the exact pieces of furniture Mr. Franklin and those people were sitting in during the sleepover. The living room was the cleanest part of the house I had been in so far. I sighed in response to churning up nothing of value up. I could hear the sound of Clyde shuffling through a myriad of objects upstairs. I couldn't tell which room he was in. I wanted to explore the upstairs of this house, but I guess my next option, besides some closets, a bedroom, and a bathroom, would be the basement, and I think I had a good idea where the basement was. As I made my way down the nearby hallway, I found the door to the guest bedroom. I tried the doorknob, tightly grabbing it and twisting it. It didn't open, meaning that it was jammed, but definitely not locked. I noticed a window adjacent to the guest bedroom, so I opened the unlocked window and climbed outside. As I scanned the house's right side, I could see a huge window that led to the guest bedroom. I grabbed the window and attempted to open it. It was locked shut. Crap, I muttered under my breath. I grabbed a nearby sharp rock and with all my strength threw it at the window. A huge gaping hole appeared in the once crackless window, big enough for somebody to crawl through. I took out my gloves and knee pads, equipping them to myself firmly before I climbed through the window. And luckily, I used gloves and knee pads to crawl through the window because the number of glass shards lying around was uncountable. I was so happy I could get into this room. I had never once been inside here. I shone my flashlight across the vast majority of the room, and my excitement faded. This room looked like a scene from a horror movie. Vomit was everywhere. Books were torn apart. Blood markings were the rule. Corpses called this place home, and the odor that was lingering in this room made me stick to my stomach. I pinched my nose as I held my flashlight forward. A huge bookcase was blocking the door, explaining why the door simply wouldn't budge. Leo, Clyde yelled directly directly above me. Yeah? I yelled back as I progressed through this messed up bedroom. The room smelled so bad that I felt like vomiting everywhere. I held it in though. I'm coming down to the basement with you. Don't say another word, he yelled back as I heard his footsteps from upstairs rush to the stairwell. I made my way to a sliding closet door at the direct end of the room, furthest away from any windows. I slid it open, and behind the jumble of dirty clothes in the closet was a door. And I knew this was the entrance to the basement. I found the basement, I exclaimed, cringing at my words as I realized Clyde told me not to say another word. I heard Clyde banging on the door of the bedroom seconds after I spoke. I leaped back from the closet and rushed to the door. Let me in, Clyde demonically yelled as the banging continued. I shoved the bookcase out of the way and tried opening the door. It was jammed. It was jammed shut. It's jammed! Go through the windows to get inside, I yelled as I began to panic. I heard the sound of Clyde jumping out of the nearby window in the hallway. I stared at the cracked bedroom windows. Clyde's figure appeared. He jumped into the room, his face covered in blood and sweat. Barricade any entrances to this room, Clyde whispered as he grabbed the bookshelf on the floor and placed it at the window. Why? What happened? I asked as Clyde was frantically pacing back and forth in the room. I'll tell you later. Just listen to me and don't disobey. Quick, where's the basement door? Clyde rushed to lock the door despite it already being jammed shut. To Clyde's command, I led him over to the closet. I moved all the dirty clothes aside, revealing a door. All right, I'll go in first. You come in second. Lock yourself down here with me. Clyde slowly opened the basement door and walked in. I followed behind him. He gently closed the door and locking it behind him as he walked down the long concrete staircase. Though Clyde and I both had our flashlights on, we could barely see more than 3 steps down the stairs. After walking down the steps for about a minute straight, I began to question if this staircase was infinite. I had never seen a basement staircase so long. That meant that this basement was deep into the ground. When is this staircase going to end? I asked after 2 minutes of walking down the staircase. It's seemingly infinite. Clyde stayed silent as he continued a swift pace down the stairs. I genuinely feared that the staircase would go on infinitely, but eventually we reached the end of the staircase and stepped foot into the murky basement. Here it is. Clyde stopped walking as he took in the scenery of this basement, the place where hundreds of people were most likely murdered, where souls lurk and possess you if you tread into their property. The basement was lit up with a faint red light from the corner. It gave an ominous vibe. Do you think that we'll see the devil down here? I asked as flashbacks of that weird supernatural creature appeared in my mind. I still couldn't believe those days that it happened. I was seeing supernatural Harry Potter things right in before my eyes, and I passed it off as mostly in the ordinary. People would think I'm insane after I publish my first book when I'm done writing it. No. Clyde began walking ahead of me through the basement. I heard this place links up to the basement at Greenfield High School. Wait, whoa. You're saying that this basement links up to Greenfield High School? I asked, thinking deeply about what Clyde just said. Mm-hmm. Actually, this basement is the central hub for many other basements in the city. Right now, we're connected to the deepest truth and secrets we'll ever be. As Clyde and I began exploring this large basement, I nearly bumped into a desk filled with papers. I shot my flashlight down at the desk, lighting up 4 papers. Gabriel Johnson's address, 663 North 77th Street, Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, 53213. Gabriel Johnson's value, very high. Gabriel Johnson's killing list, Clyde is on top. Gabriel Johnson's journal. Wait, no, that journal wasn't a paper. That was a whole darn book. Jackpot, I said to myself. What? Clyde shouted back as he rushed over to where I was standing. I picked up a dusty book that had hundreds of pages within it. Guess what I found? Clyde squinted his eyes, then exclaimed as if he had an epiphany. Amazing! You really did find the jackpot. I grabbed all the papers on the desk and handed them to Clyde. Hold them till we get back into the car. I'll take them home and look into them. Clyde nodded, then continued to look around the basement. Other than that desk, it was quite empty here. Other than that desk, it was quite empty here. I would have thought there was more, but there really wasn't. We'll be back down here in the future, Clyde said, but for now, let's head back upstairs and get out of here. I was beginning to feel a creepy and nefarious vibe emerge from this basement. I felt like something was about to happen. Perfect timing. I was ready to get out of this crooked basement, and especially this crooked house. You know why I wanted to leave the basement so suddenly? Clyde asked as we were rapidly ascending the staircase. Why? Because I kept hearing an eerie cacophony of sounds, the type of sounds a schizophrenic might hear, but this time I know they were a reality. Right as Clyde mentioned the sounds he was hearing, I began hearing them too, though much fainter. I got the chills as I felt something watching us from the bottom of the pitch black stairwell. As the person right behind Clyde, I felt as if something was going to attack me from behind at any moment.